it's so interesting that you were the one that God chose to see or hear his warning before your dad. Did you feel like that was God's way of showing his hand at redemption for your father?
I think that it was very much a way for God to be like, this is my heart towards your father. And that's the thing that's wild, is that regardless of whatever I was carrying for him at the time, regardless of how I might not have been feeling him at the moment, because I think by that point, I was very over some of his antics. I think I was in a state of indifference. But what the Lord said to me, it reminded me that God loved him. God wanted to save him. But God also knew the condition of his heart. And God knew that he gave him multiple opportunities to repent, to change his ways, to There have been multiple opportunities for him to do right, get better, and he did not choose to ever take advantage of those opportunities. At some point in time, of course, we know that the Lord is merciful and all of that stuff, but at the same time, God knows why he had to do what he had to do.
Hello everybody. I am so excited to be here yet again. How are you? How's your soul? I hope your soul is good. I'm Caroline, aka Care Bear, aka Care, and I am so excited to have another conversation that I know is going to be a fruitful one. I have here such a dear friend of mine. I literally love her. I learn so much from our conversations on a daily basis, and I think she has such a unique and incredible mind. And so just like sit down, get your snacks, just get ready, because it's going to be that kind of conversation. Get some tissue, because I just don't know where this is going to go. And I think this is going to be one of the conversations of this season where it's like, we've talked about this so much already off camera. So I feel like it's going to be one of those ones where we just get to it and like dig into things we've actually never dug into before. So without further ado, welcome my friend, Adriana Addai.
Hello.
How are you, my friend?
I'm so good. First of all, intro. Okay. It's very good. But I love you so much too. We have the best conversations and I'm excited. I'm excited to dig into this. I think we'll have a really great, fun, interesting, yeah, I'll say fun, because I was going to say grief is not fun, but I think anytime you get an opportunity to reflect and learn and, hear different perspectives, I think that's fun.
Yeah, I agree. So. See, she already got started. Guys, just get ready, okay? Awesome. So before we get into the deep stuff,
yes,
I would love for us to do a quick little thing. I'm doing this thing where I show everybody some of my mugs. I really like mugs, always love them. I feel like I've gotten a lot of gifts that were mugs, so I've been saving them and just like admiring them. So I asked all my guests to choose a mug that speaks to them, that they like. I will share mine first, and then Adriana will share hers. So I chose this. I'm pretty sure it's an indigo mug. Indigo, if you want to help us out, you can. But yeah, it's just a simple sea mug. I like it because it's just what it is. Yeah. It's so me. Yeah. I love the color in the middle, and I think since I'm wearing black, it's just kind of like a little pizzazz. You need a little pizzazz. I'm wearing black, so yes. So yeah, I think I love seas because my name's Caroline, and yeah, I'm care to talk, so I feel like it just works, Yeah. So that's me. What did you choose?
Well, listen, I chose this one, and there's no fancy reason behind it other than it was the biggest one.
Okay.
And if you know me, I love me some tea, and I would drink 1 million of these in one day. And I just feel like go big or go home. We don't have time for those small cups. It's not every day, You just need one big cup. And then, so yeah, I think it's efficient.
I love
Efficiency is the name of the game here.
We're here for efficiency.
There you go.
I love that. Okay, thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Okay, so I really like random facts. Love to talk about just random facts. And I found one for you. I think it's very fitting. The fact is, you can die from staying up for 2 weeks straight.
So why me? Why do I deserve that fact?
I chose the fact because I feel like you never sleep. And I keep telling you, you need to go to bed.
I need you to know that is fake news.
That you don't sleep?
I definitely sleep.
How many hours a night?
I get like a good 6, 7 on a weeknight. And on a weekend, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. If I have things to do, I have things to do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and I've always been a night owl, like from the beginning of time. And sometimes that comes with sacrifices because some things start early in the morning. If the world ran on my cycle, we'd go to bed at like 2, 3 o'clock every night. And then we'd probably wake up around like 10.
Okay.
And then we go from there. But like, why do you need to be up before 10 o'clock? Like, I feel like that's a big, like, it's...
I get it. I feel like I'm officially awake, around that time.
Yeah.
Too.
Like, even when I'm going to work, my brain is like, don't ask me nothing until 11 o'clock. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think it's very interesting. I thought it would be earlier than 2 weeks straight that people would.
I cannot. Can you imagine being awake for 2 weeks?
I couldn't. Like, it's literally not possible.
What do you think you'd be like?
Just completely delirious.
By day 2, I would have no control over.
By day 2,
what I say, what I do. I might start seeing hallucinations.
That's just day 2.
Just day 2. By day 2, I'm cooked. I don't know.
How would one even stay up for that long is what I want to know. How is it possible to stay up for that long?
That's a great question.
Someone would have to literally be like, the moment you sleep, like slap you or something for you to actually stay awake.
Yeah.
Past 2 days.
I wonder what the world record is for like the person who stayed up the longest.
I wonder. Because
I'm willing to bet it's like 4 days max. Like max.
Yeah. It's sleep is food, my dad says.
Oh,
you need to sleep or else you just can't operate. Just like you need to eat. You can't operate. Well, you can operate for a few days, but after a while, your body is like, hello, what's going on here? So anyway, that was the fact of the day.
That's really smart.
Very interesting. So I'm just like warning you to sleep more. That's what I'm saying.
I sleep. Do you know that naturally though, like there's something called the night owl gene? It's a theory, but like some people need less sleep than others. Like just
need less sleep.
Like they require less sleep to function than others. Okay. Not they need less sleep, but they can thrive and survive off less sleep than others. Like some people are just not functional if they don't have max hours of sleep, but then there are some people who can get 5 hours even and be fully operational, alert, don't have any issues or whatever. So I think a part of it is genetic because my mom is a night owl, my aunties and them are night owls. Like, I just think that's just what we do.
Interesting. So now I'm going to ask you the question of the day. Adriana, care to talk about the grief that comes with losing a loved one?
Let's get into it.
Okay, so in the book I write about the concept of grief creeping up on me. Mm-hmm. And I think I wrote that because that's literally how I felt. I felt like everybody else, grief is something that you see other people experience, you even experience in like certain ways, like maybe distant associations or such, but like for it to happen right at home, we don't think that it's actually going to happen to us. That's just like the human way. It's going to happen to you. It's never going to happen to me. And then when it does, we're like, oh shoot, like it happened. Can't believe it, right? So I talk about grief creeping up on me because I had known that like that word or that term as something specific. It was very distant to me. It was very much something that like you acknowledged in a funeral service, and then that's it. Right? I didn't know it as this ongoing thing that chased me down every single day.
Girl.
So that's what I mean by it creeping up on me. It was something that wasn't really like known so intimately in my life, then it became such a big part of my life.
Right. Okay.
So what comes to mind when you think of grief creeping up on you and what that means?
You know, that's such an interesting way to put it, that grief creeping up on you, because it literally is that. I think in my case, like when I lost my dad, it was very sudden. It came out of nowhere, right? So that was more of like, okay, there's the shock, you have to process the shock, da 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 da, right? But outside of the actual set of circumstances, what I find ironic all the time whenever I reflect on the story and think of what happened is that I was literally on the phone with a friend of mine the week before, and we were just talking about another loss that occurred around that time. And I was like, man, like, I've never experienced any significant loss. At that point, I had barely even gone to a funeral. And so it was a situation where, not that I hadn't gone to any, but it was a situation where that year, like the year that my dad passed, I went to the most funerals I've ever been to in my life because there were just so many different losses just around. So it had me really reflecting because it was just like, oh my God, there's all these people that are losing their family members and da da da. And still, even in the midst of the funeral, and as much as you feel for the bereaved family, you're still kind of just like you get to go home and your life is unaffected, right? So it's so funny that the week before I was like, yeah, I've never had any significant loss. Like I can't even begin to imagine what that feels like. And then it's almost like so said, so done. Like as soon as I said that, boom. And so I don't think I had any concept for what grief was or what it looked like. But then now that I'm familiar with it, very familiar with it, because once once grief becomes a part of your life, it changes you forever. And as a result of that, it is actually something that you live with every single day. Not that you live in it every single day, but you do live with it every single day. And so because of that, you recognize it, right? And so even when different forms of grief come into your life or in other people's lives around you, that could be a job loss, that could be a breakup, that could be a divorce, that could be loss of a job, that could be whatever, you see somebody go through that process, you can recognize that is grief, right? Whereas before you could just be like, oh yeah, John is really sad, Mary is just, she's going through a rough patch. Now it's like, no, I know what that is. And in that, I know that that means that behind closed doors, there's something going on that we don't get to see. Because that is really, like, grief is isolating. It's a lot. It is a lot. Mm-hmm. And it does creep up on you.
Like nobody's business.
Like nobody's business.
So can you walk us through, to the degree that you're comfortable, what happened with the story of the loss of your father and how that affected you?
Right, man, the story is quite a story. How much time do we have? Because
girl, we have as much time as you need.
So just to put it in context, like I'm a person who, like, I was raised by my dad. My dad is somebody who, my parents have been together my whole life. I was like, my dad is somebody that I'm attached to. However, I've never, not never, but in my adulthood, I never had a close, intimate relationship with him for a variety of reasons. And by the time, like, nearing to his passing, the years leading up to that, a lot had changed with him, right? There was a lot of, different things that I noticed, that everybody in our family noticed about certain changes going on with him. And so that required a lot of prayer, a lot of conversations, a lot of, whatever. So there was a day, it was April 2019. I will remember it like till the day I die. There was a day that I was supposed to wake up and I was supposed to go to work. And I could not for the life of me go. Like, I couldn't muster up the energy to go to work. And something said to me, just stay home and pray. And so I stayed home and I just prayed. Just flat on my face before God, praying and praying and praying. And there were so many things that God was showing me, confirming to me, revealing to me. But the one thing that he said, that God said very loudly, is your dad is going to die if he doesn't repent. So I said, whoa, 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 whoa. And I ended up calling my mom, telling her, this is what the Lord revealed to me. She said, okay, I'm gonna tell him. So she went, she told him, she said, God said that you should repent or else you will surely die. And no word of a lie, he laughed it off. He was just very like, you guys and your Jesus stuff. Okay, cool. At that point in time, my mom was just kind of like, she took me seriously, but she was also kind of like, soon? Like, what does soon mean? Like, I'm like, no, he's going to die. Like, I felt a sense of urgency in my spirit. I'm like, no, like, he's going to die. Like, and I knew that soon wasn't, like, the Bible, Jesus be like, I'm coming soon. But like, Lord, it's been a little bit. It's been a couple thousand years. Still haven't seen you yet, but soon, amen. So that's when my mom was kind of like, what's soon? Like, right? Like, what does that even mean? But I just knew it was going to happen. So that was in April. The day before he died, mind you, this man was in perfect health. Like, he wasn't even 60 years old yet at the time. He was like in his mid 50s. He, like I said, he was in very good health. He was not a person who was sick. He never lived on medication. He never, whatever. There's a couple issues here and there, but like nothing outside of the norm, right? But there was a day so the day before he died, it was a Saturday. We were at church at the time. And I was saying to a friend who I was driving to church, I was like, man, I just feel so weird. Like, I feel so weird. And she was like, what is it? Like, is it this? Is it that? Is it church? Is it someone at church? Is it... And I'm like, no. She's like, okay, maybe when we get to service, you'll feel better. Went to service. It was great. Came back inside the car. I'm like, no, man. I feel so weird. I'm like, something is not right. But the feeling was like a sinking feeling. Like you're on a roller coaster and your stomach just like it's just it. And that feeling, I had that feeling all day. And I said that to my friend. She was like, yeah. She's like, I don't know, just go home and pray. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I went home and I prayed. Like, I prayed. And I probably was up until 3:00 in the morning praying until until I felt release in my spirit. And when I felt the release, I felt joy flood me immediately. But like, it's almost like I knew that something happened, but God was in the midst. So that was it. Woke up the next day, went to church, came home. Well, didn't go home, was on my way home, dropping one of my friends off at home. And my mom called me and she was like, come home at like ASAP. Something happened to you.
This is Sunday night.
This is Sunday evening, afternoon. Something happened to your dad. I was like, okay. But immediately I knew he was gone. Like, I just knew it. I knew that regardless of what happened, it could have been anything. He could have slipped, he could have fell, he could have like, but I knew. I was like, oh, you're done. Like, this is it. And so when I was driving home, and my friend's house is nothing but 10 minutes from my house, but when I was driving home at the time, I said to myself, like, it's going to sound weird, but like I had a vision. And in my vision, I saw myself in the future, but I knew, and I was with my family and my dad wasn't there. And that's the vision that I had when I was driving home. So that confirmed to me he was gone. And the reason why that is important is because that is something I think, as lofty as it sounds, because I think a lot of times people hear that and they're like, oh my God, I couldn't process that information, or I couldn't deal with that information. I do think that I believe that that is one of the ways that God provided for me. He provided a sense of like peace and comfort or something, because I knew that this was God's doing. You know what I mean? So, so putting a pin in that, I get home and my mom was like, I got a call from your dad's friend. He collapsed. They put him in an ambulance. We got to get to the hospital. So we get to the hospital. By this point, we don't even know what's going on, right? By the time, before we even walk in through the doors, my dad's friend calls my mom back, says they said that, you know, Peter's, he's brain dead. She was like, what happened? Yeah. How? So to make a long story short, he had a brain aneurysm while he was out with his family. And nobody knows why or how. Apparently he was complaining of headaches a couple of days prior. That's something that my mom noticed. I never noticed that, but that's what she said. But he basically had a spontaneous brain hemorrhage, a cerebral hemorrhage that resulted in a lot of blood in the brain. So he was brain dead at first. He was brain dead for about 3 days. And during that time, as people do, praying for God's healing and da-da-da. And I, again, couldn't pray for healing because I knew that this is what the Lord spoke to me already. And so I said to myself, I'm going to pray, but I'm going to pray that God's will be done. That's it. That is it. That is all. And yeah, 3 days later, he passed away. And that was, I would honestly say, the first time that I ever felt my heart break.
Ever in
my life. Ever in my life. But there was a weird piece in that because I knew that this is what the Lord wanted. Like this, not that this is what the Lord wanted, but that this is actually what my dad chose. Because he was given information and chose not to obey the Spirit of God.
So we were talking about this earlier, and you were saying that this warning, that it's so interesting that you were the one that God chose to see or hear his warning before your dad. So did you feel like that was God's way of showing his hand at redemption for your father? What do you think that the purpose of that was, for you to know that and for that information to be shared through your family, not directly to your dad, but through you? And what weight that must be for you as well to even carry.
Yeah. I think that it was very much a way for God to be like, this is my heart towards your father. And that's the thing that's wild, is that regardless of whatever I was carrying for him at the time, regardless of how I might not have been feeling him at the moment, because I think by that point, I was very over some of his antics. I think I was in a state of indifference. But what the Lord said to me, it reminded me that God God loved him.
Absolutely.
God loved him and God wanted to save him. That is what the heart of the Lord was. God wanted to save him. But God also knew the condition of his heart. And God knew that he gave him multiple opportunities to repent, to change his ways, to da da da. There have been multiple opportunities for him to do right, get better, da 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 da. And he did not choose to ever take advantage of those opportunities. And so now, like at some point in time, of course, we know that the Lord is merciful and all of that stuff. But at the same time, God knows why he had to do what he had to do. Everybody is not going to have that experience. Some people are unrepentant and they will stay that way until they're 110 years old. But in my dad's specific case, God knew why it was essential for that to play out the way that it did. But he did have to show us that, like, regardless of how y'all want to feel, regardless of how you want to feel, and I think particularly me, because even amongst my siblings and even amongst my mom, and this is something that we talk about all the time, they all still had a soft spot for him that I think that had closed up for me by then. And if it's one thing about me, it's like I don't like foolishness. I'm not a foolishness person. So I don't have time for games. Particularly when I feel like you're a person who should know better. Right? And so I can be a little bit shrewd in that way just naturally. And so I I think that God needed to show me that, like, I still love him. Like, regardless of, like, I even still have a soft spot for him.
Right.
You know?
So that must have challenged you, right? In that moment to be like, okay, God, if you can have a soft spot for my father, then surely I can too.
Exactly.
As hard as it might have been
Right.
at the time. We were talking earlier and you said that you were surprised or shook in your words. You were shook by the fact that you actually ended up grieving and you are grieving this experience. So
Yeah.
can you talk about that? Like, because I feel like in most of our cases, losing a loved one, it's inevitable that you'll grieve.
Right.
It took time though for you to get to that place, did it?
It's not, you know what's weird? It's that in reflection, I was grieving the whole time. It's that, but I never thought I would. I really, by that time, and this is the thing that's crazy. Like, it's not even like when I say, like, when I'm talking about some of the things that took place in my family or whatever, at this point, I'm not even talking about like something egregious, right? Like, I'm just talking about a long time of a lot of different things, difference in personalities, difference in how, you know, I think you should do one thing. I think one thing is proper and decent, and you think another thing is proper and decent. And that's not to say that other things didn't end up showing themselves that weren't egregious, because there were some very egregious things that took place. But just because of how many things have built up over a long period of time, it was at the point where we would talk, like, have small talk. We would talk about politics, basketball, whatever. We just say, hey, how are you? Da, da, da. But there was no intimacy, there was no closeness. And he knew that I saw right through him, right? Like, he knew that his foolishness, even if it could rock with other people, was never going to rock over here. So by that point, because I was very, like, I was just like, I could take you or leave you, to be honest. Like, and at that point, I was grown. I was like, I'm 24 years old. Like, I'm an adult. You raised me. Thank God. We're done here. So it was very, like, I just never, I don't know. I thought I was so tired of him that it's like it would make a difference in my life, whether not, like, it would make a difference, but like it would make a difference. It wouldn't make a big difference. Like, I think I was thinking of it as if anything were to happen to him, because even at the time that the Lord had showed me that he was gonna die, I was more sad for my mom and my sisters than I was for myself. I wasn't thinking of, oh, oh my God, I'm not gonna have my dad. Da, 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 da. I was more so thinking, oh my gosh, my sisters. Oh my gosh, my mom. I wasn't thinking about me at all. So for me, the way how it just gripped me almost immediately, I don't know. I don't think I ever would have thought that
Wow.
that would have happened to me.
Hearing that story for the first time when I did really instilled or reinstilled, if that's a word, the fear of God
Oof. Okay.
in my life.
Okay.
Because you just like, it's a lot. I don't know how, and I think that's the wisdom of God, is he knows who can handle what he's about to fork out.
Right. Right. Right.
And, you know, I know it was probably hard for you to even receive that audible confirmation from God, but he knew that you could handle it in some sort of way. Did that fear of God affect you in that way too? Like, how did that, or did it confirm that you can hear God clearly? Like, what was going on in your mind? Like, I'm literally like, because I don't know how I would have been able to handle that. And I'm like, whew, feeling goosebumps.
Listen.
How did you even handle that? And I have so many questions. We haven't even gotten to them because this is such a unique story, which I feel like in a way shows the grace of God.
Yeah.
Even when people like listening to the story for the first time will be like, that's crazy.
Scary, creepy, weird.
God is the Grinch.
Right.
You know, but I do see that, like, that piece of his grace and like wanting a soul so bad.
Yes.
That he would do whatever he could to get the attention of the person he loved.
Yeah, I think just to speak to like even the like how it felt to receive that. One thing about me is that I love the voice of God. Like, I love the fact that I know that I can pray and I can hear God, and that I have absolute confidence that God is speaking to me. And so I don't, as scary or as whatever it is that God is saying, I don't ever let the fear or the weight of what God is saying grip me to the point where I'm just like, either I can't tolerate it or I can't bear it or I can't whatever. I also think that just in general, I think that I have a high tolerance for a lot of, like, I think that some things that would stress some people out don't stress me out. I don't even know if that's healthy or not. I'm just saying that's just my reality. It's that I don't, yeah, it just never bothered me. Like, I'm a huge advocate of, like, the truth is the truth. It just is what it is. And when I know that it's true, like, I know that it's true, I know that it's God. If there is something that God is saying, and I trust God, like, I actually trust him. So even if what he's saying is something that's big, it's lofty, it's weighty, it's not what I want to hear, I know that all will be well. Regardless, all will be well. And so, and I think that, like, again, it's just, it was all a part of God's grace, but also his provision, because it made it possible for me to believe, even when, and I think I told you this, when a lot of my family members, aunts, people around, were like, they were all like, oh, you know, the Lord showed me that your dad's in heaven now and all this other kind of stuff. I don't disbelieve them, because,
oh, hey there. I'm here just to interrupt regular programming to say, how are you enjoying the episode so far? If you are, I would love if you could share this video. Share it with someone who might benefit from this conversation. Like this video to let YouTube know that it's an important one online. And leave a comment below if you would like to continue the conversation. If there's anything from the conversation that resonated with you that you would like to share and have conversations with other people who are watching, do that. Also, if you can subscribe to this channel, that would be great, because we want to grow. We want to grow, and we want more and more people to talk about topics that matter. One more thing. You might notice the set it's good. It's good. It has potential, though, to be better. And so we want to get more equipment. We want to up the value of this podcast. And so if you want to partner with us and invest in this podcast, we have details in the show notes so that you can help and sow a seed into good ground, into what we're doing, so it can reach more people and resonate with more people as well. And I'll see you at the end of the episode.
I think it's possible that even though he was brain dead by medical standards, I think it's possible that there is a reason why God didn't allow him to die immediately. That in that 3 days, God could have done something to show him, like, oh, the word that you scoffed at, the word that you laughed at, the things that you thought were foolish things are now, like, you now have to confront that and be like, oh, wait, shoot, this is real. And so, like, God could have killed him instantly. And that was not the case in this. And it happened just also intentionally so that I can say that I'm also not going to push back when people are like, oh, your dad's in heaven now. He repented. God showed me this. God showed me that. It could be possible. If he's in heaven, that is so great. And that is ultimately what the Lord wanted. And God would know how to get him there, right? If not, then I mean, that is what it is. That was also a choice that he made as well. Yeah, it was a very interesting thing to hear, I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. But God be telling me all kinds of things, child. And they be true. Well, so
it's giving you that gift, right? To hear him clearly. And you listen, so that's good. What do you think, though? When you were talking, I was thinking about how I feel like the general public, like the comfort statement is, oh, your mom is in heaven. That's what people tell me. Your mom's in heaven looking down at you right now. This is like a day after she passes, you know. Like, so what do you think about that? Like, just society's standard of everyone going to heaven, and just that's how life is wrapped up and that's how it ends. What do you feel about? I have weird feelings about that statement. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a great picture for us. But what do you actually think about that statement? Do you think it's misleading? That's a misleading question. Sorry.
No, I'm curious to know, though. I'm curious to know, what are the weird feelings you have around it?
The weird feelings I have about it is that there's an assumption that just everyone goes there. Mm-hmm. In particular to my case,
yeah,
like, I know the life that my mother lived. I would never be too confident to send anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
But because I, saw her life, I don't doubt that that's the case.
Of course.
But everybody is so sure
right.
that this is the destination for almost everybody in the world. So I guess as a blanket statement for anyone, that's where it becomes uncomfortable for me.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's weird to me.
Did it bring you any comfort when people would say your mom is in heaven? Like, is that something that's a comforting statement to you, or is it just kind of like, okay?
I think it's meant to be comforting.
But does it feel comforting? Because that statement's always rubbed me the wrong way. Right.
It didn't comfort me in the moment. But because I knew who she was and the life that she lived and how much she loved the Lord, it was like, I concur that message, So
agreed.
Yeah, I just feel like it's not dismissive, but kind of. I don't know if that's the right word. But it's like they're there. Don't worry.
Yes, yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was kind of like, great, but
yeah. I think that one of the things that you realize very quickly is that people don't know what to say.
There we go.
And we have all been in that seat
of
awkward. Like not knowing what to say. And even if you've gone through grief of your own, another thing you realize is that everybody's grief is different. Some people want to hear certain things, other people don't want to hear certain things. Some people want you to give them space, other people don't want you to give them space. Like, everybody is so different, and it's such a touchy season that everybody is just kind of like different. And so you don't know what to say. And I think that is a thing that I had to like just accept. Like, people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So like the platitudes, oh, he's in heaven. And like, everybody's not in heaven. Like, let's just be so for real. Everybody's not in heaven. But also, whether or not they're in heaven is not my business. Like, that's the way that I see it. Like, that is God's business. Like, if we reunite, that's going to be so great. We're going to be in eternity forever. Like, hope to see you there. But also, what does that have to do with my earthly reality? To me, nothing.
And that's the part where I'm kind of like, great, thank you. I have a question though. You're talking about how people don't really know how to support those who have lost. What was the way that you found it most helpful when you were walking through the beginning stages of the grieving season? I need to stop saying when you walked through it, because it's something that I feel, and we'll get to that, is consistently following you in a way. But yeah, how did you feel the most supported in that? I think this will help somebody who, might need that.
I think just having people around. I think presence, but also like being able to have conversations with people who you know have gone through certain things. Do you remember the time I think you came over to my house and we were in my room and you and I were just, it was just us, but there was like a whole heap of people all over
in your house. Oh
but
my God, there's so many people.
It was crazy. It was
you guys are very loved. Very, very loved.
And we bless God. But like, that was one of my favorite conversations in that moment, because it wasn't fake. It was just like, you get me.
Yeah.
And I get you. But it was like also the first time I felt like I ever understood you. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's a different level type of understanding.
Yeah, I feel, I see what you're saying, and I feel like when you deal with loss, there's this film that like goes over you where like you'll never be the same again, right? So like there's this film that you now wear that people don't understand.
Yes.
Like for me, I feel like there are moments where I take life super seriously. And I think it's because of the fact that I've lost my mom. People don't understand that aspect of myself. And I notice that. I notice when I'm very like serious in a moment for whatever reason, and people see that. And I think it's just because losing someone sobered me so much. Yes. That I'm so much more sensitive to a moment. Like if I'm enjoying a moment, I'm super sensitive to that. I'm trying to soak it in because I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be our last moment, and that's a dangerous place to live. Like I don't want to live there. I don't want to stay there, but it's the truth. Yeah. If I'm sitting in the room with my family, like I'm just soaking in how happy my nieces and nephews are. I'm like, oh, like, let me just take a picture with my brain and remember this, because I don't know if it's going to be like this ever again. Not to say that something's going to happen tomorrow, of course. But because of that film, everything is so different now. Like the picture is so different now. I'm not living this carefree life anymore. I am in certain aspects, but with that like thin film that distinguishes me maybe from other people who have not experienced death yet. Well,
and that's trauma. Right?
That's what it is.
Because that's literally what trauma does. Like when you are, and then I think particularly in your case, because like in my case, I was an adult. You were still a child, right? Even though you're a teenager, but that is still a child, right? You are still a person who very much is in need of your parents, right? Like you're just about to branch out into the world. It's scary. You're a young lady. You want your mom. Like, it's a different, like, that's a lot. And for you to digest that, I think it's like, because that's the thing. It's like, I started to have some weird thoughts. And one of them, and I still have it to this day, is like, yo, people could die. Like, they could actually die. Like the next day. Like there could be a hypothetical person who is right here, and they could be right here right now, and then tomorrow not be. It is so like it's jarring. Like it's jarring to think about the fact that you recognize how fragile life is when you think of the different ways in which people can just a little thing can kill you, you know? Like it doesn't take much for you to die.
Yeah.
It's so scary. It's scary. And so it's to the point where yeah, you do take things seriously. Everything seriously. Hello, it's your birthday? That's a big deal to me.
Yeah.
It's a big deal to me. I don't care. You can feel away. Oh, I'm turning 40 this year. That's so sad. Oh, I'm turning 30 this year. That's so sad. Oh, I'm turning 20 this year. I'm getting old. Whatever it is that you want to feel, you're alive though. But you have breath though. Like to me, it's like that is a very, whatever it is, that could be family, that could be friends, that could be having just moments to myself, just enjoying life, seeing life, traveling, doing all the things. Like those are the things that, and like even things that some people care about, like I just don't care about it. I don't care about money or this, that, third. I care about my family. I care about my people. I care about love. Because at the end of the day, like those are the things that matter when all is said and done. When all is said and done, all those clothes you have in your closet, they're gonna stay there when you're dead.
Yep.
None of those things matter. The car in the driveway, whether it's a Benz or a beater, is gonna stay on the driveway. So it's like it's cute, and not to say that that's not a part of enjoying life. It is a part of enjoying life. However, you don't need to kill yourself for material things to try and keep up with the Joneses and do all the things that you think. Like, enjoy life in its simplicity.
Yeah.
Because those are the moments, like, I really do think that one of the things that I love to do, or used to love to do, is just look back at photo albums. It's just like us at Niagara Falls, us on Christmas morning, oh, somebody's birthday. Like, those are the sweet moments. Those are the moments that bring tears to your eyes. Those are the moments that you cherish forever. And it's like, do you remember when you bought your big house, or like when you first earned whatever salary you think is impressive, or when you sure you do, and those things affect your quality of life. But at the same time, if you have material possessions and you don't have any love, and you don't have your family and your people and like solid relationships, you did not live. You could have seen the whole world and had everything, and I would still say you did not live. So it really helps you to prioritize life.
Sobers you real quick. Sobers you and reminds you, as you said, about the fragility of life.
Yeah.
And then also, I love that you said, and I've said this in a couple conversations already, life is serious, but it's also not that serious.
Yes.
That is like the statement of my life at this point. It's just like, there are things that, of course, super serious. Yeah. But at the end of the day,
not that serious.
Not that serious. Woo! Can you talk about, we were talking on our pre-chat, and you were talking about how grief is a monster that you can't push back. You literally said those words. Yes. I think that kind of speaks to also the timing of it. Some people, well, I don't know if anyone believes this, but some people might believe that grief is something that you kind of walk through and then you're good after. Yeah. Some people, believe it or not, believe that.
No, I think almost everybody believes that.
You think everybody believes
that? I
do
think so. I feel
like if I were to go on the street right now and like ask random people, most of them would say that grief is not a one-time thing.
Yes, they would say that, because I do think that cognitively we know that it's, if you've experienced it, you know it stays with you forever. Yeah. But I do think that people carry guilt about it staying with them forever.
Unpack, my friend.
Yeah, like I think people think I should be over it by now. I think there is a point in time where you're like, I feel like people think that I should stop talking about this, or I should not feel a way about this, or I should be over this by now. And that's not to say that anybody has ever actually said that. That could be self-imposed guilt. That could be you feeling that about yourself, not that anybody's giving you any signal or any vibe of that. But I do think that the average person would also be able to say, because like even if we were to take it away from big grief, death, loss, like something that's super final, and then just like bring it down to small grief, right? You go through a breakup, right? It was a significant relationship, you're with the person for a couple of years, you go through a breakup. Even though we know how hard that could be and how much that wears on you, and how even something as small as that does change you forever, it changes how you relate to the opposite sex, it changes everything about you. You still feel after a certain point in time, I should not be talking about this, my friends will not want to hear about this anymore, I should not be crying over this man no more, I should not be, like, you do start to be angry at yourself over how long it's taking you to get over this. So I do think that when you look at that, it's like if you pull it now out of that small context and then blow it up larger to something bigger like death or whatever, no matter how lofty we recognize something like that to be, I still think that there is that same feeling of, I shouldn't be still crying over this. I shouldn't still feel like this. Like, I should be able to just get it together. And the reality is that everybody's tolerance for stress, sadness, whatever, is different. Yeah. And we could say, like, of course, I can already hear the voices of people being like, but no, in order for you to live, you have to get over it. Yes, you do. But even that looks different for everybody. One person's getting over it could be never talking about it again. I have my own thoughts on that, but that could be their version of getting over it. Another person's getting over it could be talking about it all the time. And another person might look at that and be like, why are you still talking about that? You're not over it yet? But this is you getting over it, because this is what's helping you to still be able to live the rest of your life. Yeah. Because if you didn't have an outlet, if you didn't have the opportunity to have conversations, you would probably be so like just trapped by your own thoughts and feelings that you can't do anything else. Yeah. So, but I do think, just like circle back to the point, yeah, I definitely think that even though we know that grief stays with you forever, I do still think that almost everybody experiences guilt over their grief. At some point, there's a thought that creeps in that says, I'm inconveniencing other people with this. And it's like, people will only give me like a month max, and then after that point, they don't want to hear it. Yeah. And then it's like, it's something that they might bring it up when it comes to mind for them. Oh, it's Father's Day, it's their birthday, it's and like, that's no shade, I'm saying, like, that's when it comes to mind for them, right? That's when they'll open that conversation up, right? But those days, and you and I talked about this as well, those random days, it's the random days that nobody knows about, nobody expects, in that is so isolating, because you don't think that you can inconvenience anybody on a random Tuesday to talk about this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, do I want to talk about my dead dad on a Tuesday after work at 5 p.m.? Right. Right. And I know you don't want to talk about it either. Do you know what I mean? So you just sit in it. We suppress it. Sit in our feelings. Girl, can you talk about lessons that you're learning throughout your grief journey? So I feel like I've learned a lot in my mother's absence. I don't know if I can say more or I don't know, but I'm learning so much, especially in my like young adulthood, in my mother's absence, about her, about myself, so many different things, in ways that I might not have learned while she was here. Yeah, very weird. Very, like very what, weird. If you could share one thing? Like, good question. I feel like there are things that I think about all the time, but I don't really have on hand right now, this moment. But the importance of like being a connector
I
Oh,
felt like my mom was like a connector.
okay.
She was in the household. She was like that glue in our family. And then like, you know, when you go to like family things and stuff like that, like there's just this vibrance that I noticed as a young child, like looking up to her, that there was, that I still see when I see family and stuff, but like it was unique to her, that really brought about this like light, fun, beautiful energy amongst family. And I think I'm like my mom in a lot of ways. I don't know if I'm like the vibrant life of the party that like she is, but the connector aspect, the aspect of being so intentional with being a connector amongst groups of people, I think I'm learning as I go, and especially after losing and experiencing loss, how important being a connector is, and how you are like that missing puzzle piece in glue when you can show up as that type of person who loves people so genuinely and desires connection so strongly that you're willing to put yourself out to be that for the people that you do life with. And I think because I'm someone who's more to myself and like, you know, more introverted in certain ways, I felt like that wasn't my job. But now that I'm getting older and like people see me and they're like, you are your mom. Like things like that. And I'm sure with my other siblings, they get their own aspect of that as well in different ways. But yeah, I'm learning that like, I don't need to be, there's an aspect of me that carries what she carried. That I should really embrace and hold on to and exude in my life. Because that's kind of like living on legacy in a sense, right? And I don't know if legacy is the right word, but just carrying on the spirit of who she is through me, because I'm her offspring. So yeah, that's that like connection piece is like how important that is to be that in family and in other relationships. If that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It does. It does. It does. It does. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I do think that people teach you a lot in their absence. You'll learn so much more about who they were in their absence. It's weird. It's like, not that you learn more, you learn a different side.
That's it.
Of who they were. You learn what they meant to other people.
Yeah.
Because one of the things, like, even some of my cousins, I would be like, oh man, like, Uncle Peter, he was this, he was that, he was, and I'm like, I didn't even know y'all felt like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, but I didn't even know that they, in their mind, he was like, you know, or whatever it is, like, there were just so many versions and stories and things of just like, oh, I understand who this person was and what they meant to the people around them. And like, that is very different than maybe what I would have thought, or not that you don't know, because like, one thing I will say is that I also realize in many ways how much my dad shaped who I am as a person. Like, my mom is great.
I love her.
She's so fun, right? But I think that in a lot of ways, I'm also very much like my dad. I think my mom is very jovial, very lighthearted, very fun to be around. And I think I am those things. Like, I can be a jokester. I can be all of those things. But I also have a very serious side. I think that is my dad. On the more like, like, can be very shrewd, can be very like to the point, can be very cutthroat with it if that's what needs to be done. And that part of me, I think, is very much like, it reminds me of my dad in certain ways. Or like, I don't know, it's just different little things where it's like small things about just like how you're raised, or like discipline, or certain things that you will or won't do, or whatever. I know that those are the things that come from him, and I can hear his voice when it comes to certain things. I can hear his thoughts. I can think of like, oh, okay, this is what's going on in politics. My dad would think blah, 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 blah. Or like, just like different things, like sporting events, or like just anything. Like, I know how it would have been if like he was around, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, yeah. And like, the thing that's that I realized more than anything else is like people really loved my dad. Like people in my mom's family loved him. Like everybody loved him and for their own reasons and in different ways. I miss his cooking for certain things. I'm just like, there's a lot of things that I'm just like, man, like, and even sometimes things be happening in my car and I'm just like, man,
if only. Yeah, I get that.
Come on. So sometimes it's like, they always say you don't know what you got till it's gone. That can apply to people too. It's like you sometimes really don't even see the true value of like who a person is. And it's sad. And this is why, like, there's this thing, right? Like when people are talking, even when people are talking about like dating and relationships and stuff like that, they're like, oh, if you have to lose me to value me, then I don't want you in the first place. Or like you didn't value me in the first place. Or like that means you never loved me. I don't believe that to be true. I think that everybody takes advantage of the things that they have accessible to them. I do believe that familiarity breeds contempt. I do believe that people get used to and accustomed to and they take for granted the things that are around them. And I do think that for some people, for whatever reason, in certain seasons, it might take for them to pull away or for you to pull away, whatever you need to do. Some people divorce and get back together. Am I gonna say, oh, those two people never loved each other? They came back. And that's because this person I thought I could do it without you. I did not recognize the full value of what you were bringing to my life.
Thank you for sticking around. Wasn't the show awesome? I hope that you enjoyed our guests. If this is something that resonated with you, please like the video, share it with someone that you know, and subscribe to the channel. Also, feel free to leave a comment below and keep the conversation going. If you're an audio listener, you can leave a review on any of our audio platforms. Also, let me know what you care to talk about. Any topics of interest that you think would be great for the podcast, please let me know by sending an email. The email is also in the show notes. That's it. That's all. Thank you so much and see you guys very, very soon. Bye.